Hi, everyone. I'm here with Reza Rahman, who is going to speak to us today about some really exciting initiatives that we have in the Java ecosystem at Microsoft. First, a little bit of an introduction. I'm a senior cloud advocate at Microsoft for Java. Reza, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been in the Java EE and Jakarta ecosystem for a long time, almost 25 years now, maybe a bit too long. So majority of my career, I've been an independent consultant. I worked for myself for, basically my clients. I spent a little bit of time being sort of principal evangelist for Java EE at Oracle. And now I'm here at Microsoft. I'm a principal program manager for Java on Azure. I have a couple of different things that I take care of. Basically, one is the Java on Azure Charter, which is pretty broad. It touches about 30 or 40 different teams here at Microsoft, all that work on bits and pieces of Java. And then there's a part that I actually do have a team and an engineering team dedicated to doing the work, and that's better supporting Java EE and Jakarta EE runtimes on Azure. So that would be basically WebLogic, WebSphere, OpenLiberty, WebSphere Liberty, JBoss EAP, Wildfly, that kind of thing.
Tell us a little bit about, and this is fascinating that Microsoft is actually, heavily investing in Jakarta EE. And I know that you come from a really strong, rich background with Jakarta EE, and you have an initiative called Jakarta EE Ambassadors. Tell us a little bit about that organization and the history behind that organization.
Sure. So the history behind the organization is that it started as Java EE Guardians. The reason it came into existence is really because we were seeing a slowdown and in fact a pause in the investment to Java EE from Oracle. And we really felt that, this is something that we need to do something about, and it has to be something grassroots. So that's how the organization was created. Eventually we succeeded in, we and obviously the other vendors, we all succeeded in getting Oracle to move Java EE, which is, a big part of the Java platform, into completely open source, into the Eclipse Foundation. We renamed ourselves, to go along with the rename of Java EE to Jakarta EE. We thought Jakarta EE Ambassadors would be a better name. And frankly, that name actually goes far more towards fundamentally why an organization like that actually needed to exist probably about 10 years ago. And that is for such an important part of the Java ecosystem. A lot of whatever you talk about today, Quarkus, Micronaut, Spring Boot, all of these things actually fundamentally are actually reliant on a healthy ecosystem for Java EE or Jakarta ES technologies. So what you needed is that technology set not to be vendor-driven. It needs to be user-driven and user-contributed, and not just vendor evangelists that get paid full-time to do talks at conferences. That's not the kind of thing we want for something as foundational as that. You need something a lot more grassroots, and where a lot of ordinary people that actually use these technologies in real life, that are not big shots, they're not big names. They have a way of coming together, working together, and advancing the technology forward, going in and advocating for these technologies. That's the fundamental reason why the Jakarta EE Ambassadors exists.
So how does one actually become part of the Jakarta EE Ambassadors? Now, I joined initially when you put out a call for people who were interested in becoming that, and I remember, some of the great names of the Jakarta EE ecosystem also joined. But if you could tell us a little bit about how to become part of the organization.
It's very, very simple. We don't operate like an exclusive club. There is no entry fee that you need to pay or be a special person that you need to prove some special credentials in order to do anything there. That's not the case. One of the core objectives that we had as a group was to be egalitarian, and that is to be very inclusive, right? So you don't need to do anything or be anything other than simply willingness to say, hey, I care about this technology. I understand why it's important to the Java ecosystem, and I have something to contribute. Whether it can be as simple as I need to I get on a mailing list and pay attention to what's going on and provide my opinion as an end user, all the way to, maybe delivering a talk at your drug, or maybe contributing and advancing the technology itself, which a number of us are also doing, right? So really, there is no requirement whatsoever, right? So all that is required is a commitment on your part that this is something you want to do. That's it.
And it must be really exciting, the finger pulse of Jakarta EE, and you also probably have some really good insights into where the industry is moving ahead with these new technologies. And we've seen a real kind of interest now in these micro containers and microservice containers, and everyone now is kind of creating their opinionated framework and systems. So tell us a little bit about where you see the future for Jakarta EE going.
So Jakarta, at the end of the day, although people don't realize it, like I was telling you, all of these things ultimately, have dependencies on Jakarta EE one way or the other, right? So ultimately, for these things to remain healthy, whatever direction the industry goes, you need that fundamental technology set to stay healthy, right? So what's going on now is we had a successful transfer of this technology set, which is, if you look at it, it's literally more than 5-10 million lines of IP,
wow,
right, that got transferred, and that got successfully transferred as of Jakarta EE8. So that's a success, probably one of the most successful technology transfer stories of all time, right, that we've had, certainly in Java. That's absolutely true. We're now going to have a Jakarta EE9 release of that very, very soon. And what that does is that it really decouples everything from Oracle's ownership, including the branding and naming, right? So it's no longer going to be under Javax namespace or have dependencies on the Javax namespace. It's all going to be on a separate namespace altogether. Basically truly an independent technology that is still foundationally important. So that's going to be very, very soon, probably in a few weeks to a few months. And then we begin to look at what is going to be in Jakarta EE10. So it's a really good time for developers to get engaged. In the Jakarta Ambassadors, we've already drafted sort of our ideas on what we would like to see in Jakarta EE10. At least from Oracle, we've heard that, we potentially could target next year. So FY 2021 as initial release for Jakarta EE10. So it's a good time for people to, sort of get together and think about what do they want to see out of Jakarta EE10, first of all, and how they would like to contribute to it. So a good starting point is a draft that we put out there, and it's still open for comment, and anyone can give it a read and see what their thinking is. Where's the industry going? Frankly, I don't know, right? So I am very worried, right? So we've gone from a situation where the technology, the industry was very cohesive, right? So everything was, centered on some well understood fundamental core that everybody invested in and sort of had a common understanding. And as an end result, what developers had is portability and a sense of vendor neutrality. So that, I think, has eroded, at least to some extent, right? So thankfully, Jakarta EE is still relevant enough so that there's some foundational level of portability for people that want it, or at least there's a few runtimes that you can pick still that you can write effective applications with and still be able to stick to vendor neutrality if you want to. With what is going on right at this moment, I'm frankly a bit worried, right? So now we're really getting away from that, and even at a foundational set, there's very little compatibility, right? So you really are fragmented into your own little camps. So I hope that
do you see that? Do you see the initiatives that are happening at Microsoft really helping, drive and create a richer ecosystem in the Jakarta EEs? Maybe just touch on also some of the real nice releases and initiatives that Microsoft has done recently.
Microsoft is definitely helping, right? I would say more than most cloud vendors. When in reality, when you really look at the big cloud vendors, they're essentially, they are serving the ecosystem to an extent as infrastructure providers, but in reality, they don't really invest a whole lot back in the technology sets that ultimately run on their platforms. I think Microsoft's DNA is fundamentally different from that. I don't think that we've quite seen that DNA come through for the Java ecosystem yet, but we do have a good beginning. Right? So, for example, we're already doing more for Java EE developers than I think most of the other cloud vendors are. So we're working with the key partners like Red Hat and Oracle and IBM that have a stake in that ecosystem, and making sure their runtimes, first and foremost, have a good story to tell on Azure. So we just put out a release for WebLogic on virtual machines. We're going to be putting out another one for WebLogic on Kubernetes. We're similarly working with the Liberty team to, again, enable their runtimes on things like OpenShift and AKS. We're doing the same thing for Red Hat and JBoss EAP on virtual machines, hopefully very soon. We just announced the private preview for running JBoss EAP on App Service, which is, as you know, our biggest our flagship PaaS platform, if you will. So enabling an option for JBoss EAP, there was a very important step where enabling JMS interoperability for Azure Service Bus. So a lot of indirect investment into this ecosystem as well, in terms of empowering these vendors so that they have a platform on Azure, as well as obviously empowering the end users. So they also have a choice. So if they want the choice of having a vendor-neutral platform and stick to vendor-neutral APIs on Azure, they can do so.
That's a very extensive list. I mean, if I was a developer looking at the portfolio on Azure, I would actually be spoiled for choice. On top of that, you've got all of the other kind of hosting platforms that you can do. You can still host on a VM. You can still host on app services. We have quite a few Tomcat hosting options also, which is great. And any plans or any hints for the future that you can think of, though? Any roadmap or really events that you want the audience to be aware of?
So big thing for us is the things that we talked about, right? So we're going to be beefing up our WebLogic on virtual machines offers even more, right? So we'll hopefully be having a pretty close to everything that you can ask for from WebLogic on VMs by December or so. So similarly, we'll be doing a release for WebLogic on AKS for similar types of very robust support to run WebLogic on AKS, in whatever it is that you would wish for. We'll do that for you. Similar story for WebLogic, or rather WebSphere Liberty and Open Liberty, and hopefully similar story down the line.
That is exciting. As soon as you have that, I want to play with that. The Open Liberty and Liberty in WebSphere. I spent a considerable portion of my career on WebLogic and WebSphere, and to run them on Azure, to have all of those backing services also available, it's going to feel like a kid in a candy store. Thank you so much today for this opportunity to talk to you. If people do want to get through to you, how do they actually reach you? We will put some of the details through to the and then the Jakarta EE champions. It's available online on the website, on their portal.
Sure. So get in touch with me is actually super simple. So I have my own. The best way is actually go to my own personal website. Let me give you the link for the website now. So that is here, and all of my information is there. My work email, my personal email, my phone number is there. If you want to give me a call, whatever you want is available. So I'll share it with you. You can definitely put it on the video notes or what have you. And as opposed to the Jakarta EE Ambassadors, that's easy. Right? So we have a website there. You can find out everything about everything that we do. Definitely, obviously, it would be awesome to see somebody join and help advance Jakarta EE as well. So I've shared the website for that. It's simply Jakarta EE Ambassadors, Jakarta EE-Ambassadors.
Yeah, we'll share those. We'll share those on the actual YouTube link. I look forward to people signing up and driving the future of Jakarta EE. And I remember writing my first EJB even before version 2, and it was the most fascinating experience for me to be able to do RPC calls across old school Corba related calls, and it was just magic. I still, to this day, still look back at that time and with wonder of all of the connectivity and the trailblazing that it did at the time. Thank you so much for your time today, and we look forward to some great and initiatives. Anything else before we end you'd like to say?
No, so trailblazing is exactly right. I'm glad you mentioned that. A lot of people don't really appreciate that fact. A lot of the ideas that even now we utilize, in fact, originated in that time frame.
I know.
So you have to take the good with the bad, right? So you can't just focus on EJB, it's so horrible. In reality, EJB actually originated and pioneered many ideas that other people have taken and run with, which is good.
Dependency injection and being able to just locate your being just from a directory, and we just do that now with a simple little annotation, and we don't even know that EJBs were the initiative. Thank you so much for your time, so thanks everyone, and we'll put this up on the links on YouTube.
So just one more thing. So you asked me about events. I didn't quite answer that, so let me answer that. My evangelism is not, or advocacy rather, is not my day job. I try not to do too much of it, but in reality, I do get invited to various conferences. So I do have a fairly, I would say, busy conference schedule. So some of the next things that I'll be speaking at is Rio Cloud Conference Day, that's on October 17th. EclipseCon Community Day, that's on October 19th. JConf Peru, that's October 23rd and 24th. JDConf, which is a Microsoft-sponsored Java conference. It's this very interesting concept. That's on October 29th, and I'll be also doing a Jakarta Tech Talk on November 17th, and quite possibly I'll be speaking at Jakarta One conference that's in December. So it's quite a busy schedule.
Yeah, that sounds quite busy.
So best way to keep track of it is just follow me on Twitter. Usually I send notifications a few days in advance of where I'll be speaking.
Good. Thanks so much. Thanks, Reza.
Sure.
Cheers.